Hi YouTube, my name is Jack, and I have some rambling thoughts for today. For those of you who don't really follow me elsewhere on social media, I wrote a book called Qabalah for Wiccans, which has come out. It came out last week, and it's real and in the world now, and that's super, super exciting. I'm so proud of this book. I really am. I wrote this book because I felt like something like this didn't exist. I have been sort of always an apologist for Qabalah in Wiccan spaces. I've always been the sort of person who would talk to other Wiccans and say, I really love Qabalah, I get a lot out of it, I think there's something here that's interesting, that's relevant to what we do as witches. And a lot of people in Wicca, for entirely understandable reasons, are suspicious of Qabalah, or uncomfortable with Qabalah, or just not sure that there's anything in it for them. Right? You crack open an introductory Qabalah book, and it's all tables of correspondences and charts and names of angels and archangels in Hebrew, and it's very easy to feel like none of that fits with what Wiccans, witches, pagans, etc. really do. And so every now and then I would win someone over, and someone would say, okay, I'm interested, I'm willing to learn more, where should I start learning Qabalah? And I'd sort of go, because I felt like there really wasn't a book out there that I could just hand to someone and say, here, read this. This is why I think Qabalah is worth your time. All of the books that are out there are written for a different audience, such that you read them and you really have to sort of mentally filter the information that you're getting in order to make it relevant to what you might do as a witch. And that includes, for the record, Ellen Cannon Reed's fantastic book, The Witch's Qabalah. There's some really, really good stuff in there. I really like that book. But that book is still structured, sort of top-heavy with correspondences, with a lot of the Hebrew, with a lot of the names of God and things like that. And it really is sort of an invitation for Wiccans to change their point of view and explore a very ceremonial Golden Dawn style of things, rather than sort of inviting Wiccans to see Qabalah as it already intersects with what they do, which is more the sort of thing that I wanted to share. And so I'm really, really happy with this book. I'm so proud of it. I'm so glad that it exists. It's also really weird being an author in ways that I had not been prepared for. I think as soon as I announced that this book was coming out, like that I had signed a contract with Llewellyn, people started to interact with me differently, and this is naive of me, but I really hadn't anticipated that that would be the case. I had someone say to me, well, as soon as you have that crescent moon next to your name, the crescent moon being the Llewellyn logo, as soon as you have that crescent moon next to your name, your ego is going to blow sky high, and you're going to be walking around thinking that you're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And I don't think that's the case. It's weird, because as soon as you've written a book, people treat you as if you have decided to position yourself as a person who writes books, and as if you are posturing yourself as this great occult expert, and you're expecting people to defer to you on all matters, and you're going to hop in and have an opinion, and I don't know how to combat that expectation, because that's certainly not how I think of myself. That's not how I really want other people to think of me. And that's not why I wrote the book, right? I wrote the book because I felt like I had a particular thing to say. And, there's this weird relationship that we as the occult or pagan community have with the people who write our books, where we need people to write our books, right? We do need books to be written. That's a way that you get access to information that you wouldn't otherwise have, particularly if you're sort of trained in one particular tradition, or if you don't have access to a tradition of any kind, you're on your own, you're figuring shit out. Books are your friend, right? And we need books that are, relatable and down to earth and easy to understand, accessible. Like, those are very good things. But simultaneously, there's this sort of, I don't know, being a person who writes a book is simultaneously something that a lot of people aspire to simply for the sake of being an author, right? Like, everyone says they're going to write a book. Everyone says they're going to write a book. And a lot of the time, it's not even a specific, like, here's the thing that I would write a book about because I'm really passionate about this and I don't think there's a good book like it. It's, I want to write a book because I want my name on the cover so that I can, be an author. There's this weird way that writing a book is coveted, or that some people will treat you as if you're not legitimate or knowledgeable or interesting if you haven't written a book. It's a marker of status in this really weird way. And then simultaneously, there's a way that writing books is almost dismissed as an ego project. I think in part because some people really do come to it with that attitude of, like, I'm going to write a book so that I can be a big name pagan. Where also, like, being a big name pagan still means you're not famous, right? Like, no one, if you go to Kansas City and you stop someone on the street and you ask them who, Scott Cunningham, Silver Raven, Wolf, Raymond Buckland, if you ask them who any of these people are, they're not going to know. Fame within the pagan community is nothing, and it's this weird narcissistic thing of thinking that we matter much more than we actually do. Whenever people talk about being a famous pagan, it really strikes me as odd. But there's this attitude that also emerges that, like, if you're a person who writes books or has written a book, that you must have that kind of ego, that you must be in it for the fame, or you must be about the fame, or desire the fame, or that the fame has altered the way that you interact with other people in some way, such that you are now positioning yourself as an expert, and that you expect people to treat you with a certain degree of reverence, or whatever. And I don't know, it's, speaking only for myself, that strikes me as really deeply not true. Once again, I don't think the fame is real. I think that even if I were a very, very big pagan author, I would not be famous by any reasonable stretch. And secondly, I'm not a very big pagan author, right? I'm very excited about this book, and I really hope it sells well, because I think there's valuable stuff in here, and I think that people will get something out of it. But this book is not going to sell 10,000 copies. This is a fairly limited market, right? This is sort of the intersecting markets of people who are interested in Wicca, people who are interested in Qabalah, and so you don't even get the full range of either one of those markets. And even, just Wicca and Qabalah are smaller markets themselves than, like, witchcraft more broadly, magic more broadly. So this book has a very narrow audience, and that's okay, because I wrote it for those people, for the people who are interested in it. But, it's not gonna be big, and that's okay. But I'm not, I'm not Matt Oren. I'm not one of these people who are gonna sell thousands and thousands of copies of their book and be sort of a household name in the pagan world. And I don't want to be. I want people to read the book. I want the book to be successful, but I don't really want it to be attached to me as a person. And a thing, I think, that's sort of a necessary evil of the publishing process is that a lot of the brunt of publicity, falls on the author. So I'm having to talk about and promote this book Honestly, a lot more than I'm comfortable doing, right? I would rather the book just be out there and sell and be promoted and I continue to sort of quietly do my thing. And I'd rather have my author bio just say, like, Jack Chanik is a hermit and he lives in the mountains. But you sort of, the publishing market being what it is, you as the author really have to do a lot of the promotion. So I'm having to do these, dumb promotional tweets that say, hey, go buy my book. And I'm, doing a couple of classes and I'm making podcast appearances, and all of that is wonderful because I like talking about this material. But there's also this weird thing where you can't help feeling like you're trying to cultivate yourself as a brand, and that can feel inauthentic. That can feel very artificial. When really all I want to do is to have written the book and then share the stuff in it in a way that it will get to a lot of people. And part of the reason that I reached out to Llewellyn and tried to publish this in a traditional way, as opposed to just, I don't know, serializing it and putting it on my blog, is that Llewellyn has a broader reach than I do. Right? There are people who are going to buy this book who have never heard of me and who would never have found me if this stuff were just on my blog. And that's sort of the reason that I'm going through Llewellyn. But the nature of the publishing beast is that in order to help facilitate that, in order to get that out there, I have to do this very difficult, weird, artificial thing of sort of being an author and posturing myself in this way of sort of, I don't know, seeking attention, which doesn't necessarily come naturally to me. So, and that's not to say that it's a bad thing, right? I'm so excited. I'm so happy about this book. And, if I do a couple of podcast appearances to help the book sell, that's great. That's wonderful. But as someone who's not really used to attention on a larger scale, and who's certainly not used to being treated as a brand, it's weird. It's a really weird experience. Just sort of the way that things change when you have your name on the cover of a book in ways that I hadn't anticipated. And, even people that I've known for a very long time, even people in my own community, sometimes are coming at me differently and sort of approaching me as if I expect to be treated differently because I've written a book. And it's like, Susan, you've known me for 6 years. I'm still just some dude, right? Like, yeah, I'm gonna go teach a workshop on Qabalah and Wicca and, a lot of stuff in the book. But also, this is a workshop that I've taught before and that you've been at, and my feelings aren't gonna be hurt if you're not there, because it's, it's stuff that because you and I have talked about it, because we know each other. Like, I don't know. I'm rambling. And I know that. The point, I think, generally that I want to make is that publication is exciting and wonderful, but there's also this externality that I probably should have been able to predict, but that I didn't. And that's that suddenly I'm not just some dude, I'm a semi-public figure, and people now relate to me as a semi-public figure rather than just as some guy. And that's, neither here nor there. It's not an inherently positive thing, it's not an inherently negative thing, but it isn't something that I had anticipated, it isn't something that I had really desired, and it's weird for me. It's really, really weird. So I think that's all I have. I'm gonna wind this up here. Buy my book! No, but in all seriousness, if you are interested in approaching Qabalah and you don't know where to start, and you feel like as a Wiccan, or even, this book is written specifically for Wiccans, but I like to believe there's a lot in here that witches of all stripes, pagans of all stripes would find value in. There are some things that are specifically targeted at Wiccans, but there's a lot here that's just like, let's talk about Qabalah as pagans or as witches, as low magic practitioners. So if that sounds interesting to you, by all means, please do order yourself a copy and then review it on Amazon, because Amazon reviews, an honest Amazon review is a really, really good way to help any pagan author. The more reviews a book has, the more Amazon's algorithm likes it and is going to sort of show it to other people when they're making their searches. So please, 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 if you do buy the book, if you do read it, go to Amazon, leave a review, let other people know what you think. And with that, I'm going to leave you. Thank you so much. Bye.